Good morning, Susan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What about you?
Very well, very well. Doing well so far. Busy week this week. Obviously, I did an interview with Stephen from KPP yesterday, and it's great to have you today. What I'll do, as I normally do, is start off by introducing myself and then go to yourself, Susan. So my name is Chris Lowden. I'm the Commercial Director for 920 Recruitment. We're a boutique recruitment agency based in the city centre of Glasgow. We work across the whole of the UK in the digital, technology and manufacturing and engineering sectors. Susan, yourself.
So my name's Susan McRoberts, and I run my own HR consultancy called the Curated Consultancy. And my purpose is really about helping start-up and scale-up business owners create workplaces where people are really inspired by the people who they work for and engaged by the work that they do.
Great. Okay. So how has life been over the past few weeks?
How has life been? I mean, it's funny because when we started off and you said, how are you? I mean, that's such a loaded question these days. And it's an interesting one. So when you think about when you're leading people, you might, when you ask that question, get that immediate superficial answer, fine. And it's important to really kind of actually understand how your people are. So how's the last 4 weeks been? I'll be honest, because this is a time, for leadership where we are honest and authentic and, lead with empathy. It's not a time for macho leadership. So it's been a roller coaster, it's been a total roller coaster. There have been days where I felt like, do you know what, I'm getting somewhere, I'm still making progress. And then there's another day where something gets cancelled or pulled or whatever, and it's just a setback. So, I think you need to, again, for leaders, other people, leading their businesses, it's just really important to kind of really understand where you are and how you're feeling at that point in time, and recognise that because you need to be self-aware, when you're, and the impact that you might be having on the people who are working for you. Yeah. So yeah, a roller coaster, but I think good things will come from this, I'm sure.
It's 100%. And I even when I first started doing these series of interviews, I think there's going to be lots of positives to take from this. And I think one of the things is going to be the working from home piece, embracing that more and embracing technology more, like we're doing today over Zoom. So I think that, as you say, there will be positives, and it's about how we react. And I think at the moment, vast majority of us are reacting well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yourself, how have you been adapting for your own business and dealing with your clients over the last 4 weeks? What has it brought up for you?
I mean, to be honest, my business is quite new, so I've spent a lot of time sort of getting established and building the network. I worked with BT for almost 20 years, based in London and New York. So all of my network was BT and not in Glasgow. So I spent a year really getting established up here. And so the beginning of year 2, my first quarter was started really well. I had my sort of retained clients, my project-based work, workshops that I run, coaching clients, and I had a really good sort of mix of different work and clients. And so that's changed at the moment. Some of that work is on hold. I think for me, the main thing is continuing to maintain those relationships and continuing to add value, and doing some things. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people out there that say, don't give stuff away, don't drop your prices, and don't, just give your things away for free. But, for me, it's about really supporting people when they really need it, and adding value to businesses right now. And that's important to me. Adding value is something that I really pride myself in. So it's working on those relationships, adding value. And I think, the other thing for me is kind of just having that chance to sort of reflect a bit on what are some of the things that I keep saying I'm going to do, but I don't get time to, because I am busy delivering things. and what sort of content and things could I spend some time developing. So it's, I think there's an element of, you know, continuing to do work that can be delivered. There's an element of doing some reflecting and thinking about, you know, how do you grow and what more can you do with your business. And there's the bit about just maintaining relationships and adding value right now.
No, I would agree with that. I think one of the main things, especially when this all started, was, you know, we calmed our clients. We spoke to them. We made sure we were there for them, even if it's just purely emotionally. It's about supporting each other at the moment. But at the moment with yourself, and I think this is one of the, you know, with the way your business is set up, culture at the moment. How do you keep that, or the continuity of culture from when people are working from home and they're not in that office environment? How do you keep that sustained?
I mean, there's loads of stuff about culture, and I think, you know, the first thing is almost to just do a little bit of, again, reflection. I think reflection is so important, and kind of looking at what are the things that this is showing up, because what this is doing is really probably putting a bit of a magnifying glass on things. You know, it's such an intense situation that things that were already there with your culture are only just sort of, you know, being amplified, really. So I think it's probably shining a light on some stuff, and it's important to spend a bit of time reflecting on that and recognising that. And we've seen some really bad examples of stuff that's happened. You know, there was one I saw the other day that basically someone put on Facebook, the chief people officer of a business put on Facebook saying, our people are telling us that they're on calls back to back. And, you know, recognising that, we've introduced a power hour where people can go out and, you know, have lunch or, you know, go for a walk or whatever. It's like, so you're giving people a lunch hour?
I was like, that sounds like recruitment in the 80s. But that's ridiculous.
I know, and so there's stuff like that you're just a bit like, what's going on there? So for me, I think, you know, culture starts with purpose. You know, what is the purpose of your business? And that's not just about money or whatever it is. You know, that is obviously what people are intending to do when they set up a business, but it's that emotional connection of, you know, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the difference that you make for people. And I think that's really important when people are kind of wondering, what is this all about? You know, that you have a real connection with the purpose of your business, and that you can communicate that and you know, reconnect people to it. Values are so important. So, and again, you know, we see a lot of good and bad examples at these times of stress. Where people are either, you know, we really find out whether your values are those things that were just on your website, you know, or whether you really lived them. And one of the things I say to clients when I'm working with them on identifying their values and working with them, with their employees to really identify the values of that organisation is, you know, once you've done that piece of work, the work really begins to make sure that you're living them and not laminating them. So, you know, have a look at, if you've got values already, you know, have a look at them and do that, you know, at the end of it each week, sort of ask yourself, how have I lived my values this week? How have I reinforced my values this week? And where have I fallen short? And what do I need to do about that? So, you know, holding yourself to account against your values is so important right now, because otherwise they're just words. And I think, you know, it's actually worse than that. You know, it's the sort of thing where people become very critical, and you know, they just don't believe. You know, they will become very there's a word that is escaping me right now, but anyway, you know what I mean.
It's look, I think what is most important, I haven't hidden from this, is that 920 followed a lot of their staff. And with that, still the team are in constant communication with each other, because I think it's important, even though people aren't directly working for the business at the moment, but to keep the line of communication open. I still believe our guys at 920 are still doing their Keep Fit classes with Joe Wicks every morning at 9 a.m. together. So it's that continuity, even though the follow pieces there is to keep that culture going, people communicating together.
Yeah, and there's great stuff on that. You know, I love some of the creativity and things that we're seeing, whether that's sort of selfie scavenger hunts where you take a picture of yourself, behind a tree, or, whatever, doing a yoga pose, whatever it is, and send them in, or the, whose house is this, through the keyhole type thing of sharing pictures. The one I really like is everybody contributes a song, and someone coordinates that, and that's everybody's soundtrack for the day, and everybody then can guess who contributed which song to it. Yeah. So there's loads of really nice things that you can do to kind of maintain that connection, and that's an important part of culture, along with the purpose and value stuff. Communication is so important, and for leaders right now, it's communicating with consistency and clarity, and communicating with, demonstrating, your competence, that what you're doing, and you show that direction, reconnecting with purpose. And part of that is really important, to communicate what you do know, but also what you don't know, and just acknowledge that as well. So that regular communication, because if there's any gap in that, then people will fill it, and they'll catastrophize, and they'll be busy worrying rather than actually being focused. So, communication in terms of, giving people that, communicating your competence, and giving people that confidence, but also that connection piece is so important. And I think there's almost layers of the communication, where you're communicating at an organisation level, you're communicating as teams, but that individual connection, and actually taking that time out to speak to people and understand, well, what are their personal circumstances, what are they working through right now, how do they want to be supported, how much communication do they want, what's the best way to get hold of them, being respectful of people's time and circumstance, and all those things. So it's like, well, don't phone me at 9 because I do Joe Wicks with the kids at that time, or whatever. Just, those sorts of, just
details.
Yeah, exactly. It's the connection. It's real connection with people.
It is different, because I think you have to think of the massive spectrum there, because you will go from people that, as you're saying, have the kids, they're doing the Joe Wicks, but then on the other side of the spectrum, you possibly have someone that's isolating by themselves in a flat, small flat by themselves, and they don't really have any contact with humans at the moment. So it's understanding the small details, as you're saying.
It's almost like contacting with people on an individual basis, to say to them, what do you need from me? How often do you want me to speak to you? When's the best time
That's
to
great
get
advice.
What's the best, is it by email? Do you want to send you a text first and then you phone me? Just, sort of contracting with individuals to understand what is it that they need from you. And for some people, it might be, I'm fine, I've got my hands full, I've got the kids here, like, I want to find, keep me connected with the organisation announcements and those things. But other than that, I'll phone you, and there's loads of stuff on. I mean, there's a million webinars just now on how to manage people remotely, how to manage people working from home. This is where culture matters, and it's just trust people, trust them, set short, simple goals, agree them with people about what they can achieve at this time, what's realistic for them given their circumstances, and trust them to deliver it. That's what's important.
Because I think that was the main issue, isn't it? With working from home, I still think there was a lot of old school mentalities there, especially in particular industries, and I'd probably put recruitment in there, that there was that trust issue. However, I think, look, that if you've employed someone in the first place, that trust should already be there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and it's surprising, because I work with a lot of startup and scale-up businesses, and even, and they are sometimes quite anxious about letting people work from home, and have those similar sort of concerns about trust and things. I think, it's something that people really need to think about when we come out of this. So, as I say, I've got a client who has been reluctant to let people work from home and has been forced to do that. Now, what they can't do is then say, well, I'll let you work from home when it works for me, but not when it works for you. But you also need to kind of work out what are the things that you're missing from everybody being at home. So there's no doubt that having people, in close proximity at some stage, obviously initially we'll have to still be socially distancing, but at some point, back in offices where they can actually just sit down together and work through something and things. So the technology is great, but there is no substitution for, in some things, just that interaction and those sort of just being able to say, oh, by the way, or overhearing something and saying, oh, I didn't, so it's a balance, but it's really important that people don't just say, well, that was only for COVID times and you're back in the office now. There needs to be a balance and work out which jobs can be done remotely, which ones can't, and what are the opportunity costs of everybody working from home. Don't go too extreme one way or the other. Work it out.
Look, I totally agree, because a lot of the people I've been speaking to this week, one of the contractors in particularly, working for one of the bigger digital agencies in Scotland at the moment, and he said they're obviously got their deadlines, and said there's lots of stuff that's really good, and this is a developer, lots of stuff really good where you can sit down and get your workload done. However, the creative piece still comes from being surrounded and in a team together. And he said that's what we're kind of missing at the moment. So, and you're right, that balance of being able to go, I can go and do this bit of work from home. However, I need to be working in a team to achieve the creativity piece. Or that can be different in different industries.
It's just, as I say, it's something to be worked through and considered, and not just, I think with all things, never just take an immediate reaction to things. Have a think about what the unintended consequences are, and what the pros and cons are, and just work it through and involve people in those conversations as well.
Okay, so obviously you've highlighted that the majority of your business is scale-ups. How are they finding it just now? I mean, I obviously have my own opinions, but it'd be great to, the people you're talking to at the moment, how are you advising them? How are they finding life at the moment?
I mean, it does vary very much on the client and their stage and they're in the industry and things that they're working in. Certainly for my startup clients, so I do work with the Scottish Edge competition winners.
Great.
Startup businesses are probably in a better position in some ways, because they don't have the numbers of employees at this time. So they have maybe some funding and investment that gives them a runway, and they can just delay some stuff, and they just need to keep an eye on that. But assuming that the timeline of this isn't too long, for the startup businesses who don't have large numbers of employees at the moment, but they maybe only have ones and twos, it's more sustainable. It is more challenging for the scale-up businesses who employ more people and have to do the difficult things around furloughing people, and have more limitations on their workforce. But again, depending on whether it's a manufacturing business and they need to be physically in a factory, or whether the work easily translates to home working. So yeah, it really does depend on client, and I think that is the important thing, is to understand what their circumstances are and what the opportunities are. I mean, I have to say, some of my clients who have been worst affected by this are looking at it in a way of, what can I do right now to come out of this stronger? What can I do in terms of looking at my systems, processes, ways of working, and improve those. I want to spend a bit of time thinking about my purpose and values, and come back with that clearer, so that people really get that. So I think it is there's no doubt it's difficult, and it varies by client and what their stage is, and things, but trying to look at what are the things that they can continue to do, and to see that they come out of it stronger at the other side.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you were also saying earlier. It's about doing the things you probably didn't have time to do before. Like, and this is the thing. I've always wanted to do a bit of YouTube, and I'm doing that now. So there you go. There's that in practice. So okay. So going forward then. I know, like, and I've been asked this to Stephen yesterday, but going forward, how can businesses, continue this going forward? Do you think you'll be able to help businesses create that, that balance we were talking about going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to start thinking, as I say, the focus has been, if you think about this as sort of in terms of disaster recovery, we've been in the respond mode. We've just been take action now. They need to get into how do we reset and restart and come out of this. So I think we need to get our heads into the how do we get out of this. How do we get back to work? And that's difficult because we don't know, what industries are going to open up first, what the timeline is that we're working to, what industries are going to open up first. How is that going to work in terms of social distancing? Because, this doesn't go away. When lockdown stops, COVID-19 has not gone. So, we need to work out how do we restart safely. So I think, but I think it's now is the time to start thinking about that. How do you start, whatever the timeline is, and whatever the safety measures that need to take place are, working those out, what the sort of overall government guidelines will be, and then how do you apply those in your business? And I think, if we look at what's happening in other countries in Europe, we can start to get a sense of what
anticipate.
So we can start to try to anticipate that and work out how that might work. So what are the roles that you need back first? How do you maintain social distancing within your office space? How do you maintain increased levels of hygiene and all those sorts of things? So there's some things that you can start having to think about to plan sort of bringing people back into work and unfurloughing people. So yeah, I think it is getting your head into that space and starting to look forward, and getting out of the just responding stage. Because as much as this sometimes feels like, when is this going to end? How do we get back to normal? And it kind of feels like it feels so quite indefinite just now, because we don't have a timeline, and lockdown has been extended, but it actually probably won't be that long. In COVID years, maybe, but in reality, it's probably not that long. So we need to get on the front foot and start thinking positively about how do we manage that return.
I like that saying, in COVID years. Every day is a year. No, I totally get it, and I think I'm just spinning here, but I'm sure you'd be more than happy if anyone had any questions, or if people need help towards that, Susan. You'd be more than happy to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to me that we all pull together as a community right now, and so I'd be happy to have conversations with anyone that would value that, and just get some ideas and things about how they might start to think about these things. So yeah, happy to have any conversations.
Because I think that is going to be the important part. It's the to-do list, in a sense, to getting back into the workplace again. Okay, great. Well, look, what I'll do, if you're happy with with this, I'll make sure your details are available, like mostly. And if you can think of any, obviously some of the pieces you were talking about earlier, any useful links that we can provide, that would be great. We can have a conversation at the end. But thank you very much for your time today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, just that I like your t-shirt for today. It looks like you've kind of,
I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah,
It's my Friday T-shirt.
I like it. My husband said
Yeah.
to me, "Is that a new tracky top you've got on?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, yeah. It's actually from Marks and Spencer's. But, other brands you can use. But, sorry, I'm not on Radio 1. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're actually recording this today on Friday, as just highlighted, but we'll be posting this on Monday. Just for everyone to look at on when the new week comes. But look, thanks again for your time, Susan, and we'll speak shortly.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Goodbye. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.